So, hello and welcome. It's round 2 of the Class C DTR races. We are in Japan for today's race. Looking at the grid, it seems we have a full one with some replacements from people in the rookie class joining up to the C class for today's race. I think the one to watch today has to be Nelboy picking up pole position and the race win in Australia. He flew around Australia, but and then again, in every class we had about 10 DNFs. So we'll wait to see. There should be less spins in Japan. I can't say much. I span out yesterday. Big up Quack Fox for being here before it started. So I believe we're just waiting for the final driver, who is in a Haas. So let's... Oh, I believe they've just joined now. Pole position timer in Class C. I reckon we're looking maybe high 127s, sneaking into 128s maybe, depending, of course, how much everyone's practiced. If audio needs to be adjusted, let me know, and I'll sort it out ASAP. And it looks like we are not going just yet. Still waiting. Everyone else, but yeah, I think Nelboy is going to be one to watch, and Billy in the Ferrari had a good race before obviously spinning out in Australia and crashing out. Annihilator. We're looking at the past results. We're looking at both Williams, both Ferraris, and then some wild cards in there as well that maybe didn't get the race they wanted in Australia because of the chicane. It's tough. Class C is quite tough. There's quite a range of experience in sim racing, as there is in every class. But a few rookies to test themselves, see if they can break through. We're still waiting on the Haas. We are not. We are waiting on a Mercedes now. I am missing the Super Cup final for some F1. Wouldn't have it any other way. Taking our time. As we all know, we should know by now, unless you're new, short qualifying 15 minutes. It's enough for 3 to 4 laps if you want to get one on the mediums as well, with a 50% race distance. Equal performance cars, of course. an array of drivers. So, and it looks like little Mikey Mike readying up. We're going to get underway any minute now. Here we go. We're all on now. Let's get going. Hopefully we can limit the safety cars. We've had quite a few in the opening few days of the season thanks to F1 2021's curbs. So if we can limit those, we can hopefully have a nice little competitive race. Setup's quite tricky around here as well, especially through the S's. But looking back at the Australia pole time by Nellboy, 121.4 and a 121.48 for Billy in the Ferrari, they probably do have the ability and the pace to get in the 127s. Nellboy will get a pole. Well, we never know. We never know. The Japanese first sector especially, you need a lot of rhythm going through the S's. Traction off the hairpin as well, not particularly easy. And then, of course, trying to link out that Casio triangle section at the end. Trying to hit the apex on the second part of the chicane is not easy as well. It's one of the harder technically, as we are in 18 minutes of qualifying, as they will all be sorting out their setups. We will follow pretty much the first man on track. See how he gets along. And here we go. There's a rush. And it's going to be Alex out first. So we're going to have Alex out first. On his out lap, followed by DTR ends and XD Verstappen. But Alex letting ends and Verstappen go. Maybe doesn't want to be caught at the front. So we get a nice little rush. Let's get the full track map up to see potential areas. Trying to hook up that bit after the S's is quite difficult at the speed you go at as well. And we've already got a 5-place grid penalty for overdrive in the Mercedes, who's having a bit of a shocker. He's collided into one of the other drivers, Stewart. Not a great start. And it's just carnage in the middle of the track at the minute. En's going to let Verstappen take the first lap of the session. Hopefully, with a few spins, he's not going to get impeded on his lap. As we get underway then, here we go. Down DRS open through the straight, up to the first corner. Easy to let the car go and invalidate the lap, and through the infamous S's. Very touchy apexes, a little touch and you can fly right off the track, but it's nice and tidy. Very nice. Can't ask for much more than a tidy lap on your first. Could potentially take more speed through there, up to the hairpin on turn 11. Bit deep on the entry. But a good exit nonetheless. Nice round spoon. Carry all the pace flat out through turn 14. And into Casio Triangle. Got to really attack the first part. And you can cut a lot on the second one. You can cut more than that and save yourself a bit of time. But Verstappen, XD Verstappen will start with a 129.4. And it's going to be a 129.2 for DTRNs. As we will run over to Alex Talent now, who's going to be around turn 14. And he is going to back out of the lap after quite a poor one. We'll go on with... Oh, we've got a crash! Reapers. It's Reaps. Out of qualifying early on. That's back of the grid for Reaps. Bogorovsky, the infamous admin. Well played by Ralph, just to let him through. DTRN still holds provisional pole, very provisional pole at the minute, with a 129.2. It's very much all to play for going into the second laps. Nice and tidy. Into the hairpin. That's not bad at all. Get on the power. Good. Through spoon then. Really nice on the entry. Maybe a bit shaky, not as smooth as you'd like it through the second part, but manages to carry quite a bit of speed through it. And Dopey Man, I believe, is now out. Has he crashed as well? There's a lot of drivers out. There's a lot of drivers retiring. Not quite sure what's happening. And it's not a great end of the lap for Bogorovsky. We'll get a 130.4. Alex Talent goes top with a 129.2 on his second lap of the day. He must have carried straight on from the first and got a 129.2. Still on the cards as beatable in my opinion, but it's a nice little banker lap that will pretty much guarantee his place not in the bottom half of the grid with the amount of DNFs we're having at the minute. And Alex, oh, he's impeded Stewart's lap, and that's not what you want to see. Right in the middle of the track. And that's, yep, it's ruined the whole rhythm of the S's. He'll want to back out of that. There's no saving that one, I'm afraid. That's not great. As everyone lines back up to the pits for a quick change of tyres and straight back out again. But here we've got Skipper, who's going to take us through his lap. And actually we've got Nellboy. Is this a flying? It is a flying lap. It's Billy is on an out lap, so he needs to let him go. And maybe cost him a few tenths there, potentially, if Nellboy had to brake more than he wanted to. But here we go again. Into Dunlop. Bit shaky. Not as smooth as you'd like it, but not... You will take it. Nellboy, favourite to take the points at the minute. Very smooth through the hairpin. Into the final sector after Spoon. It's very wide entry. But if you get a wide entry, you can lay down the power quite well. And he's purple through the second. And great going through the last chicane, but it's looking like a 128 is potentially on the cards here, and it is a 128.9. As Skipper is not going to get near that. And it's going to be a 131.8, putting him in 13th space. As we will follow Nell Boy's teammate. Oh, and I think he's pushed it a bit wide, but I think the lap is still on here. It's Billy there, but we'll follow Pete DePirat. Oh, it's very wide, not carrying a lot of pace through there. But it's clean. If you get time on the board, you're not staying in the bottom three. After little Mikey overdrives and reaps, crashing out. So Nell Boy, oh, it's a bit shaky by the Haas coming into the chicane, but links it up well. Oh, and a bit of oversteer at the end, nearly going straight into the pit wall. A 131.9, he can definitely improve on that, that's for sure, as Billy will now finish his lap. Again, a bit of oversteer. Setups could be tweaked maybe, but Parc de Ferme rules say otherwise, as he gets a 129.5, puts him up into 8th. He will not complain, as we're going to follow Ralph for the final part of, or are we going to go to Nell Boy? And I believe Nell Boy has parked that one up. Ralph currently, oh, he doesn't go flat out through 14, which is, he's going to back out of this lap, I think, with the time that he's got on the cards. He is. But Stewart, he's not backing out of this one, as he squeezes into the 128s and gets 128.875, a 100th ahead of Nell Boy. Alex Talent pulls down to P3. We'll follow Brandon then. Taking quite a bit of pace through Spoon. Up into the third sector. Two tenths quicker than his old time. Could break into the 128s here if he gets a nice final chicane. It's not bad, it's smooth, it's good on the traction as well. I think he might break into the 128 here, but he's not gonna. 1.3 tenths quicker than his old time, putting him up to 4th. Not a bad lap at all by the Mercedes. Is that Stewart on a lap? I believe that's him on his in lap. So we will follow the McLaren to the end of his lap. Just 6 minutes to go in qualifying. Stewart currently has pole position, as Milo seems to be a couple of seconds behind on his lap, so he will not improve here. So we go to Infamous in the Alpine. Did not race last week. And looking to bump up that table a few more places. As we come into the final sector, Infamous is nearly 4 tenths up on his old time. Could get into the mid 129s here, taking him into the front half of the grid. Not as aggressive as maybe you'd want to be on the final chicane, but it's safe. And it's a 129.6, putting him in 11th. As now Annihilator out on the medium tyre. Now, everyone has put their laps on in the softs, I believe. No, the best actually Verstappen on the mediums. So he may have the strategical advantage going into the race. Just needs to set a time, really, Annihilator. He's behind Matthew, who has a very poor time, and he's out of the qualifying session. Dopey, though, sitting in 6th, who also crashed out of qualifying. And here we go. Annihilator finishing the second sector in a 1:12.6. Flat out through 14. Up to the Casio triangle. Needs to get early on the power, but needs to be careful not to trouble the oversteer. And it's going to be a 1:29.2. And in the mediums, a great lap by Annihilator. Up to 3rd. Great lap by the Williams. So one Williams on the front row, one on the second at the minute, as we have Alex Talon challenging for the front row. And it's a 1:12.4 in the second sector, 1.8 tenths up on his previous time. And it's a 1:28.6 by Verstappen, putting him in pole position. Alex Talon going to cross the line in a 1:28.9. It's quicker than his old one, puts him back up to 4th. And we've got Nelboy, who might have crashed out there. It looks to be no damage on the front ring. But a great lap by Alex Talon, putting him up to 4th, but Verstappen with a great lap as well, as Billy moves up to P5 with not a bad lap for himself. Nelboy still yet to move. Oh, and Alex Talon again, just maybe costing the Red Bull maybe a whole second there, actually. So we're going to stay with Stewart, who is currently fighting for pole. Looked to be quicker in that first sector. Pop the telemetry on there. Bit shaky on the throttle, but gets out well. Oh, and Alex nearly weaving into the way, but I don't think that cost him any time. Attacking that first part of the chicane, stays in the race bounds early on the power. Depends on how much speed he's carrying through that. And it's going to be a 1:11.8, 3 tenths up. He's on course for pole with a purple second sector. Bit deep in on the first corner, and this is going to be tough to get pole, but he's got it. It's a 1:28.4 for Stewart, puts him straight back into pole position. Brandon on the Mercedes. Again, early on the power. Seems to take a lot of what these drivers tend to take the wider approach into the final part of Spoons and gets a lot of exit. Oh, and it's shaky. Too much of the apex. And it's a 1:28.8, putting him up to 4th. And that is it. We are now done in qualifying. Stewart is done, I believe. Ralph on his final qualifying lap. Alex will be on a final qualifying lap as well. As will DTR ends. A 10th up on his current time. Will follow Alex Talon. He's the driver in the most advanced position at the minute on a flying lap, I believe. Unless, of course, you've got the Williams of Annihilator. But no, both Williams are done. It's a purple second sector, I believe, for Alex there. Bogorovsky. But Alex, brilliantly done. Alex on for a pole here, I think. It's a brilliant third sector. But it's not just there. It's a 1:28.8, putting him up to 4th place. As we'll go to DTR ends now, who also on a good lap. Gets up to 6th. We'll join the McLaren, Milo de Held. And the final driver across the line up to P11. That is qualifying then. Stewart in the Ferrari will take pole position. Verstappen, what I believe to be... Now, he did another one in the softs, so the only driver to start on the mediums in the race will be Annihilator, who just 7/10ths down from pole in the mediums has a lot of potential in this race to do some damage. We obviously had the 3-driver crash at the start with Mikey O driving Reaps, who will look to turn that race around, but an early safety car can change everything. So again, Stewart will take pole with Verstappen 1.5 tenths behind him, taking up the front row. You've got Ralph and Alex in the second row, just 2/100ths away from each other. Then you've got 5 English or Brits, with Dopey coming up in P10. And Matthew Mott, who did crash out eventually, couldn't quite put in the time he wanted, in P17. Big story though, Nell Boy down into P7. One of the favourites for the race coming in. Down in P7, and Annihilator in P9 on a 1:29.2. This race still has everything to come. Of course, Stewart did take P3 in quali in Australia. We knew he had the pace this time. He has just taken pole off of Nellboy and Annihilator and everybody else. As we wait for the players to do the formation lap. Final predictions, if anybody has any. A Haas on the front row. We won't be seeing that for a long, long time, as Verstappen and Stewart will take us off into the formation lap and warm those tyres. Nellboy probably a little bit disappointed where he's starting. Some great laps at the end of qualifying once the track had warmed up, I suppose. As Alex is taking his time, there's the strategy. It is possible to do a 2-stop, but it is very much possible to stop at around lap 9 on the softs. And get on the hards and finish with those. But you've got to bear in mind that there may be a couple of safety cars in the race. And now what would Annihilator's strategy be in the Williams? He is the highest driver in the grid, starting on the mediums. Milo de Hell, obviously qualifying in P11, had a free choice of tyre. He's gone with the mediums, as has infamous Bogorovsky, Pete, and little Mikey. So there's the medium predicted pit stop strategy. Around lap 14, they don't last as long as you'd kind of want them to as a medium tyre. Getting about an extra 5 laps. So those in the softs will definitely want to get away quickly and get as big a gap as possible to P9, P11, and the rest of the field in the mediums. As we start to form up. We will wait for the rest of the grid to form, and then the lights will go. So the lights are on, and we are off in Japan. It looks to be a good start for Stewart. And a great start for the McLaren of Ralph, who tries to get P2, but the Haas has got the inside line coming into the first corner. But Ralph gets over Verstappen, Alex into P4. A fight for P2 is the main part. Stewart seems to get away really well here. Little Mikey seems to have dropped back a bit. Verstappen challenging Ralph. And it's Billy. But this, of course, can't expect too much action. Overtaking in Japan is not the easiest track to do, as Alex tries to get the inside line on XD Verstappen, but good defending. Stays with it. As Brandon now looks to get round Alex Talent on the bad traction he may have had going through the inside line into Spoon. Not to be the case. So, coming to the end of lap 1, quite a clean one by the looks of it, unless of course we've got wing damage to any of the back runners, but we haven't. So it's been a nice tidy first lap here in the Class C in Japan. As Annihilator seems to have a really nice exit. And this is, of course, where the table will be absolutely awful. So we've kind of got to remember where we are. We know Stewart's in P1 at the minute, with Ralph shortly behind in P2. As the Haas of Verstappen still trying to get around Alex Talent. Seems to have dropped back a bit. Honestly, not sure. To spectate when it comes around to this. As we've got a yellow in Sector 1, and that's overdrive. Looks to be no damage. Unless he's clipped a front wing, but it seems like he's still got one, and he has. So it looks like it's just a spin as he goes round again, and that time he's gone, I think. So our first DNF, we have a VSC. So that gives Ralph a chance to maybe bite the end of the VSC and get a better traction than Stewart. But after the first 3 laps, It's Stewart, followed by Ralph, followed by XD Verstappen. And we've got a 10-second time penalty for Matthew Mott, who has just now retired from the race at the hairpin at turn 10, I believe, or 11. So that penalty we will just discard. I don't want to trust the position changes, but it seems like they're in roughly the right order, with Annihilator picking up 2 on the medium tyre. It's a good start. We'll get rid of the times because, well, it's an absolute nightmare. No penalties as of yet. VSC certainly gone on for a while, and there's going to be a penalty for Milo for speeding under the safety car, and there goes the Haas at the hairpin again, and that's his day over. And right in the middle of the track, wouldn't surprise me if we got a safety car there. As Alex, oh, and we're going 3 wide into the Casio, and Alex spins Ralph. And Ralph is not going to be too happy with that one. Puts him down all the way to P10. Alex up to P3, but I think that one could be looked at after the race. Had no room to go down the inside, in my opinion. And there is a 5-second time penalty now for Milo for speeding in the pit lane, so he has a 5-second time penalty. As Brandon looks to get past Alex, and followed by Billy, could potentially be holding up the pack as the front 2 get away. So those 2 will be hoping that limited accidents from now on, so they can just kind of have their own fight. Definitely a big chunk of drivers is now Annihilator after the Ralph spin is up into P6. He's definitely going to be a driver to look out for now after picking up 3 positions. The 2 leaders, Stewart and XD Verstappen. As Brandon gets through Alex Talon and into the wall. Needs to be careful. Still in the race, just a broken front wing by the looks of it. Some say maybe a little bit of karma for the not particularly smart move on the inside of Casio Triangle, I believe. So as we will have yet another VSC, but no full safety car as of yet, which most drivers will be liking. Five laps in about 3 or 4 laps time, you'll start seeing the drivers on softs starting to pit, as we do have drivers in. Of course, we'll be having Skipper and Alex. And the pit lane, Bogorovsky bringing up the rear. And we are back underway then. Stewart gets away really well, unless that was just Verstappen on a bit of a poor one. It seems to be that way, with Brandon now closing the gap. You're probably right, Eddie. Maybe a bit of damage on the rears, but here comes Annihilator. On those mediums, the gap has now shrunk to 1.7. Between second and third, so there's a fight to be had, that's for sure. As Ends now looking to get him on the Casio Triangle. Not the easiest place to get the overtake, but he might get better traction here. He's got a much better angle, but there he has got the DRS as well. Pulls out. You kind of want the inside line here, that's for sure. And he will have him. Nice move by DTR ends. And he's going to be annihilated, trying to get on the outside of the mid part of the S's, but Billy getting the elbows out, not allowing that one. So just 3 DNFs as it currently stands. A battle for 10th heating up between Reaps and Dopey. But Annihilator slowly moving his way up the field. Slowly getting himself in a better position every single lap with those medium tyres. Verstappen still hanging on to the back of Stewart. And he might have a go at here on the final straight if he can just get a nice little exit. You really want to be within 5/10, and Stewart's gotten away really well on that final sector. Despite Verstappen setting the fastest lap, the DRS extremely powerful as Enns now sets a quickest lap, and it's a great move down the inside by XD Verstappen to take the lead. But there's still a long way to go yet, as Billy in the pits took damage to the wing, meaning Brandon moves up into the podium and ends in Annihilator. Again, slowly moving up the field, and the gap between Verstappen and Stewart is starting to intensify already, as XD Verstappen, with a great start to his stint in the lead, XD Verstappen, the Class C driver, was not here last week. So, coming up towards the pit window, maybe Stewart goes for the undercut. But a 1.5 second undercut and gaining isn't easy, as the fastest lap of the race has been set again by XD Verstappen with a 1:31.2. So the Red Bull now on Infamous. DRS not open. Would have thought he would have had DRS, but probably just didn't have the gap, but no ERS either. He's made the mistake there, as Infamous will have 50% ERS, and he's lost it. Apologies on butchering the name, but yeah, he's lost it. That's a lot of places gone, as Ralph, after his spin, slowly moving back up the field again. Stops only for the back of the field at the minute. Penalties wise, only a 5-second one for Milo de Held. Nellboy up to 6th at the minute. Just been a quiet race for him. Has all of the gaps now. Nobody in DRS range. As we do have a yellow flag in Sector 1. I believe that's still going to be the Red Bull, and it is. And there is an Alpha coming. Needs to be careful. That is Alex. Can safely rejoin now, quite easily. And he will. So, looks to be no wing damage again. But he's gone again, and now he's going to have damage, that's for sure. And this race going from bad to worse for the Red Bull. And it's going to be a 3-second time penalty for Milo as well for exceeding the track limits after exceeding the warnings. Ends slowly starting to close that gap between him and the Mercedes of Brandon. Nice line through there up to the hairpin. But only the one DRS zone in Japan, so it's not overly powerful, but the straight is long enough so you can get a good 5/10 on another driver. But overall, it's been a very high quality, and apart from maybe the Alex and Ralph situation, maybe a clean race in terms of racing, as Brandon now slowly starting to close the gap between him and Stewart. Reeps there. Oh, it's not a great exit off the hairpin. And using the ERS, he's got a bucket load of it. Reeps is also trying to get every ounce of ERS out of the car. Holds onto the position for now. And after 10 laps, oh, and there he goes. And there's the wing. Both Red Bulls. Oh, nearly collides into Skipper as well. Skipper will be fortunate there, and there's a VSC for the debris on the track. So now, personally, I would perhaps go and pit if I were coming towards the back here, maybe. Get a couple of seconds on the drivers. And obviously Reeps will go into pit for a new front wing. And Billy just picking up a penalty where you don't need to exceed the track limits. It's under virtual safety car conditions. You can just wiggle your way through the S's. I know it's sometimes quite difficult to pick up the rhythm when you sly offline for a few seconds, but nearly came to a complete stop there. I assume way above the delta. And Milo de Held again with yet another penalty. Puts him up back to 3 seconds after his drive-through. And here come the pits. Stewart in. Verstappen in. This is the key part. The mediums for Stewart. He's kind of expecting the safety car by the looks of it. Couldn't quite see what Verstappen had on. He has gone for the hard, so he's expecting a clean race. As little Mikey fighting Stewart. And that's not going to do Stewart any favours. He's now got a bit worse track position. Ralph still on those softs. They're going to be deteriorating quite quickly now as Verstappen goes off the track. And he comes off a bit unsafely, but holding on to the position from Stewart. Alex Talent with a 3-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits. And little Mikey trying to get the inside. You're not going to get it there, and he nearly loses the car. Shouldn't be fighting too hard for this position, Mikey, due to he's just not really in that sort of race. He is not fighting for the lead. He just needs to get around the track as quick as possible, not fighting for a position that he probably will be losing when he gets to the pits. But if he feels it might be slowing him down, then of course he's got every right to challenge for the position. Okay, it seems like we may have a little DRS train going on here. The director camera, not great in Japan. Some of the camera angles pretty poor. But Nelboy is now in for the stop. So we are going to see Annihilator into P3. Enns and Brandon, and we've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. That's going to be Reeps, of course, letting under blue flag conditions. He's got another one. He doesn't want to hold up Verstappen. But It's good to see him adhering to the blue flags. Annihilator will definitely want to be pushing those tyres. He's only got another 3 or 4 laps on them. As Verstappen again, I still believe is in the net lead of this race, looking at the interval times and the predicted pit stops. As we do have another yellow, that's going to be the Alpha of Alex. As he's just lost the car, and the throttle, he's a bit touchy on the throttle. And Alex, after a great quali, down the order. As it's a great exit for Verstappen, trying to get ahead of Ralph, who may be holding him up around this part of the track. As Enz and Brandon both come into the pits. Great first on the chicane, needs the traction now. Ralph will come into the pits and he nearly puts it into the pit wall. And Mikey and Ralph will have a speeding in the pit lane penalty. That's not what he needs right now. As DTR ends, will come out. Oh, and Brandon a bit slippy slidey on the tyres. Verstappen takes that position back. Little Mikey. Let's see who has stopped. So little Mikey yet to stop. As are Infamous and Annihilator, both on the medium tyres. But this midfield and leading battle starting to spice up now. Still have 17 of the 20 drivers we started off with. Much better than all 3 classes of Australia last week. That's a bit wide, and there's contact going into Spoon, and Stewart will lose the position to DTRNs, who's going to have a bit of pace. I feel he's going to have a bit of better traction. ERS being used by both drivers, side by side into the flat-out corner. Great racing. And it's late on the brakes for Stewart. Oh, and I think I might be a bit of track limits on that one. But he holds the position after the shaky start, and he's going to have the DRS on it, on Mikey as well. Annihilator comes into the pits as this 4-way battle continues, but little Mikey, of course, yet to pit, as is Infamous, who is losing a lot of time by not pitting at this point. I think Annihilator is pitted at the right possible time. His tyre is going to be fresher than everyone else in front of him. Could potentially do some damage on the new mediums. Oh, sorry, Annihilator is actually on the softs. He's gone onto the softs. I wasn't expecting that. As now it's an absolute cluster in this second sector, full of cars that need to be lapped and cars that are racing. Alex not in the session anymore, holding people up under blue flag conditions, but he's not in the session. Ends having a good race hit, very nice, but up 2 positions. Reaps up 3, but obviously not many drivers have lasted that long. It's not been a great day for Ralph after that spin on the Casio triangle with Alex. As Infamous will lose out the lead here on those old medium tyres. 13 laps old, and Stewart will set the fastest lap of the race, and he needs to keep doing that if he is to catch up with Verstappen. Little Mikey, I believe, not in the pits, and that's going to be Enz, who has just spun out on the start of Sector 1. And Annihilator makes up another place. He's clearly hoping for a safety car. He should absolutely blitz past Little Mikey on those 15 lap old medium tyres. in those fresh softs. He should blitz through. Stewart closing in on the old tyres of Infamous as well. And Annihilator just crunching that gap down now. Both going wide on the start of turn 13. Not what you want, as Stewart slowly bringing down Infamous as well. He needs to get past him. The gap is only 1.5 seconds. Now, is he going to make a move or wait for the DRS? He's going to go for the traction and get the DRS. It's a good decision by the Ferrari. Back wing opens up. It'll be the easiest move of his league race season, that's for sure, as Annihilator sets the fastest lap, breezes past Lil Mikey in the Aston Martin on the old medium tyres. Brandon now has a 3-second time penalty, which could affect the nature of this race. Infamous really needs to pit. Tyres are absolutely shot. So Stewart will begin his chase down of Haas driver XD Verstappen, and the Red Bull does go off eventually, but just avoids everyone, and he's out of the race. And Brandon now will make the move on Infamous, taking himself up to P3 with that 3-second time penalty, of course. No VSC or safety car out yet, despite him clearly being out of the race. There it is, and we do have the full safety car. So now Annihilator on those soft tyres may look like a genius. Maybe he does pit here, get those fresh mediums on, and hope that no other safety car comes in, and he's got fresh mediums for the rest of the race. So Stewart comes in. He wants those fresh tyres. Infamous is in. Annihilator in. Verstappen stays out on the hards. Now that is, I believe, a mistake. I would get on the mediums as quick as possible. Stewart is going to carry a lot more pace. Even though those tyres are 5 laps old and the hards can go on for 15 to 20 laps, they will not be quick. They will not be as quick as fresh mediums that Stewart has on. As well as that, he's held 3rd place, as has everyone who has pitted. Annihilator having a great race. Four positions up. Infamous finally pits. That safety car helps him out a huge amount, as does little Mikey. 8 positions up from P12, where he qualified. So now, just got to wait on the back runners to catch up to the safety car. Let's not forget as well that XD Verstappen is going to have a hard time warming up those hard tyres. We do have a look at the lap on the tyres everyone is on. Nailboy's gone for the softs. Little Mikey is on the softs. Skip has elected not to pit. Yes, he was very lucky with the safety car. Oh no! And XD Verstappen. Oh no! Oh, it was Alex Talent who's out of the session, I suppose. But it's still ruining the race for XD Verstappen. He's now got a pit. He's got to change those tyres anyway, but it's just not the scenario he'd want to do it in. And Brandon has a free lead of the race, but does still have that 3-second time penalty. And Stewart will definitely be eyeing up the race win now. That's for sure. Verstappen now has 10 seconds of penalties after colliding with the AI driver of Alex Talent. And does come in, as do a few drivers skipper finally comes in. A very lucky safety car indeed for Annihilator and Infamous, who have really benefited from this safety car. Incredible. Especially Infamous, who held out for as long as he could. Yeah, I believe, Alex, why you're still in AI is probably, or you were in AI, you've now actually retired, was because you probably didn't retire before leaving, which meant that AI was probably driving for you. So, 9 laps to go. This race is anyone's. We're going to have a great end to this run. A very, very unfortunate safety car for the leaders, that's to be said. Exactly what happened to me yesterday. Safety car came out, I pit for the mediums, I lose my rhythm within the S's, and I'm on, and I've gone. So, well, XD Verstappen now has served one drive-through. Still got 5 seconds at the end of the race, or another drive-through if he wishes to pit again. Safety car should be in this lap, so we will follow the race lead. Everyone trying to get heat into those tyres now. Safety car in this lap. It's going to be pretty chaotic going into turn 1. That's for sure. So when will Brandon elect to get the power down? Surely it's got to be right now. He's going to wait. He's going to keep waiting. He's going to keep waiting, and we're off and underway. There's a 5-second penalty for Stewart for colliding with the race leader. That changes everything. But Brandon now with 8 seconds of penalties. Stewart with 5 as Annihilator takes P3 from Infamous. And it's absolute chaos. Little Mikey trying to find the inside line on Infamous. And there's a yellow. It's the Haas in Sector 3. That's Verstappen. Little Mikey has the pace with these soft tyres. Trying to find his way around. Absolute chaos, as we said. Blue flags for the lapped driver. These penalties are going to change everything. Annihilator, all of a sudden, who started on those medium tyres, is well in contention for the race win now. And it's a 3-second time penalty for Reeps as the penalties start to flow. As little Mikey now. Lots of ERS, lots of pace with those soft tyres. No DRS, remember, so he's going to completely rely. But, oh, and it's a very smart inside line move by little Mikey. No ERS. He's used all his deployment this lap, Infamous. And Billy also on the inside. But it's a lot of... It's going to be tough coming into turn 1, and very rightly so, Billy backs out. Very, very smart racing by the Ferrari. And there's a 3-second time penalty again for Milo. Oh, and there goes Enz, who avoids Nellboy, but very, very smartly saves the car, but falls a few positions. Billy looking for the move on Infamous. Got to be careful in this braking point. Quite hard to spot, especially when you're following another car. This is the... Oh, we've got a battle for the lead again. Stewart and Brandon going at it. Billy needs to try and get past here. if he is to extend that gap to every car behind him, as he uses all of his DRS, has the inside line going into the flat out. Infamous backs out a fair bit, and rightly so yet again. Great racing from this class, as DRS is re-enabled for the last 6 laps. Stewart looking for the room on the outside, but in my opinion it's better to have the inside line, but Stewart just a bit braver going into turn 1. Has the speed, and Stewart retakes the lead of this Grand Prix. 5 seconds of penalties though. Annihilator just has to stay where he is, and if so, will take the points at the top of the podium. As Ends looking for the move on Ralph. You've got to wonder how different would have Ralph's race been if not for that collision at the start of the race. Ends as well had a great race up until that one spin. And then it kind of went downhill as we dip to the race lead. These two need to start using each other to try and pull away as much as possible with those penalties. But Annihilator, staying with them. That's all he needs to do. I'm fairly sure he knows that. As we're going to have a very large DRS train. Oh, this is a great camera. As Nelboy looking for the move on Infamous on those softs. Great traction, but just not going to have the speed going through Spoon. Not Spoon, sorry, S's. That race lead battle, Annihilator and Brandon just staying with it. It's been a very clean race from Annihilator, as Verstappen yet again sets the fastest lap of the race. And if it weren't for that safety car spin, that maybe if he just pits, gets on a fresh set of mediums, a fresh set of softs, he could potentially, and maybe probably, still leading this race. So, just, 5 laps to go. The front 3 slowly starting to increase that gap from P4 and P5, as Lil Mikey is just enjoying his time on his own in the P4 position. Now, Brandon might have a chance here to kind of take the lead. DRS open, trying to duck into that slipstream of Stewart. This is where all the overtaking will happen, but not here, as Nelboy looking to make a move on Infamous, who also has DRS. Just can't make it stick. Oh, but there goes Infamous. And he's also clashed with Nelboy. Not what we want to see. Puts Dopey and Billy up positions. And Ralph as well, who is also now looking to climb up that leaderboard. As Brandon off track. Not sure if it was for contact or just a bit of lack of concentration. But Annihilator takes P2. 2.1 behind Stewart. Just needs to stay there. That's all he needs to do, as does Lil Mikey. And they will both take the top 2 spots on the podium. And as you can see, Bogorovsky sitting in P12. Penalty in hand, only 5 seconds, which won't really affect the bottom of the board too much, as Ralph looks to make a move on Infamous. So 3-second time penalty for Stewart, and that's pretty much the race win gone for him, unless things really go their ways. It's a great move by Ralph, and looks to make it stick. Back up to P7. And ends, I believe, is gone yet again, and it is ends. And the DRS for Dopey trying to stick it on the inside of Brandon. He could have braked maybe a little bit later, could have been a bit braver. But the Aston Martin elects to pull out of that one. As we've got a yellow, and it's the Alpha Tauri, and it's both Bogorovsky and Milo de Held. And there is a VSC with just 3 laps to go. So the penalties are going to come in extremely important. Stewart, according to grid position, at the moment leads in Japan by 2.5 seconds over Annihilator, who finished around I believe P9 in qualifying. He has slowly climbed up the leaderboard just by being safe, good, quick pace as well, and has made some great moves along the way, some great tyre choices with that soft call, gave him the pace for a few laps and allowed him to pit again on the second safety car, get on the mediums, and here he is in P2, 2.5 seconds behind Stewart, and at the minute in the lead as Milo again with another penalty. He's got to drive through before the end of the race. So Dopey again just looking to get past Brandon, but he's put up some great defensive driving. But of course, he still has got that penalty. But if he gets past, he can challenge for Billy, who's only 3.9 seconds up the road, who has also got a 3-second penalty, as Verstappen very easily takes over Bogorovsky apparently. And Milo officially out of the race. Too many penalties for himself. But overall, no drivers really near the DRS of the car in front at the minute. Annihilator again, just nice driving. He knows he's just got to stay within 8 seconds, and he has won the Japanese Grand Prix and a big set of 25 points. Little Mikey also at the minute currently sitting in P2 after penalties have been added, but that's 6 seconds. He has to stay within 2 seconds of this lead, as Dopey now with 3-second time penalty. That could affect his race as well. Brandon will probably go down to around P8 as it stands, with XT Verstappen with the fastest lap of the race, taking a point off of anyone in the top 10. Obviously not going to be getting a point himself, as he has not scored a point, so he cannot get the fastest lap point. Infamous seems to be losing a lot of time here. He's lost about 7/10 in the matter of 2 corners. Of course though, Skipper on the softs should get a good bit of traction here. This is the closest battle on track at the minute. Everyone else nice and spaced out, as Stewart, as the on-position race lead, goes into the Casio triangle and will start the final lap of this Japanese Grand Prix. Now it's all about this battle for third. Mikey is currently 7 seconds, 7.2, 7.3 seconds behind Stewart. If Stewart can have a very good final lap, he can rescue second place, as G Infamous will duck into the pits. But here we go. It's the final lap. And it seems to be not the greatest start for Stewart on his final lap. The gap is now just 5.9 seconds, now 6 seconds between himself and Little Mikey. He needs to hope that Little Mikey just makes a mistake on this final lap and can take second place. Annihilator, as always, throughout this entire race, has been so cool and composed. Billy wants to try and put some pressure on Little Mikey as they look to just get them top of those 5th and 4th place points. Well, when you start dropping down the order, they're not worth as much. So, going into the final sector, Stuart Fox did drive brilliantly, but unfortunately a collision on the safety car and a few exceeding track limits, and there's another one, but it's only a warning. He will cross the line as track position P1, but Annihilator will then cross the line in P1 after penalties. Little Mikey, this is where it can get difficult. Little Mikey takes P2 and Billy in P4. Brandon takes on track P5, but Dopey takes P5 off of him, as does Ralph, takes P6 off Brandon, and Nellboy should take P8, as both of these have penalties, and it's a race across the line. Nellboy takes P8, Skipper in P9, ends looking just to get that last point, and will do. So that rounds off the top 10. Verstappen, unfortunately, after the spin, will take P11, not getting a point. Does have the fastest lap though, so does take an extra point off of the top 10. Bogorovsky in P13, and Reeps has already finished after being lapped. But a great race. A clean one at a lot of times. A few spins, a lot of drama, as Bogorovsky crosses the line and ends this Japanese Grand Prix. Your winner after penalties is Annihilator. And I said at the start, when he was on those mediums, he's got potential to really peck up that order with a bit of luck. And after that softs call and got him a couple of places, he was on fire. The winner is Annihilator for Williams. P2, Little Mikey, and P3, who ran a great race, is Stewart. Sure to tune in next week. We've got Singapore for both Class A on the Monday, B on the Tuesday, C on the Wednesday, and the rookie race on the Thursday. But to top off your front three, Little Mikey comes in P2 from 18th, but Annihilator, who drove a great race, he takes the points. Stewart and Billy in 3rd and 4th, Dopey in P5. Ralph, after that spin, bit of contact with Alex at the chicane, he finishes in P6. Brandon and Nellboy in P7 and 8. Skipper and Ends finish off the points. XD Verstappen had the race on lockdown, had the fastest lap, but just spins under safety car conditions and ruins his chances of points. Infamous and Bogorovsky in 12 and 13. And Reeps finishes off after Milo's disqualification. Well done all. Well done all, and we'll see you next week in Singapore.